Nico had always been curious, ever since he was a child on Earth. He dreamed of exploring distant planets and discovering things no human had ever seen before. Now, years later, he found himself on a small, rugged colony planet on the edge of human settlement. The soil was red, the sky a pale orange, and strange winds carried scents he had never smelled before. It was a harsh world, but to Nico, it felt alive. He walked carefully over the cracked rocks, his boots crunching softly. The colony's warning signs were still fresh in his mind. This part of the planet was dangerous, with wild creatures and unpredictable storms. But Nico wasn't worried about himself. He had learned to survive. What he wasn't prepared for was what he found next. In a shallow hollow between jagged stones, he noticed a small movement. At first, he thought it might be one of the local animals, but as he approached, he saw it was not an animal. It was a small figure, hunched over and trembling. She looked like no human he had ever seen. Her skin had a soft silver hue that shimmered faintly in the light, and her large, rounded eyes, clouded and unseeing, looked empty yet filled with a quiet sadness. Nico crouched down slowly. "Hello," he said gently. His voice was calm, carrying warmth. "Are you okay?" The figure didn't move. She did not respond. Nico noticed that her small body was thin, almost fragile, and that she had clearly been alone for a long time. Her clothes were torn, and her hair, long and silvery like her skin, was tangled and dusty. "Hey, don't be afraid," Nico said softly. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small packet of food he always carried for emergencies. "I've got something to eat. You must be hungry." The girl slowly lifted her head, and for a moment, Nico thought she might not understand him. Then she reached out her small hands toward the food. There was a strange grace in her movements, even though they were unsteady. Nico smiled. "You're safe now," he said. Carefully, he knelt beside her and offered the food. She took it delicately, making no sound, and began eating with slow, careful movements. Nico watched her closely, feeling a strange connection. There was something about her that felt different, special. After a few moments, Nico asked, "Do you have a name?" The girl paused. Then she whispered a word that was barely audible. "Luma? Luma?" Nico repeated, smiling. "That's a beautiful name." Luma looked up at him again, and he noticed a faint shimmer of light on her cheeks. He could not tell if it was from the sun or something inside her. Something deep inside him told him that this small alien girl was extraordinary. But the reality of the situation struck him immediately. The colony had strict rules about taking an unknown aliens. Many settlers would not welcome her. Some might even want to harm her out of fear. Yet, Nico could not leave her here alone, in a world that would not understand her. "I'll take you with me," he said, decision firm in his voice. "You'll be safe with me, I promise." Luma didn't speak. She only tilted her head slightly, as if she understood. Nico gently lifted her in his arms, careful not to hurt her small frame. She was light, almost weightless, and he marveled at the quiet energy she seemed to carry. The journey back to his settlement was not easy. The wind whipped around them, and strange noises echoed through the rocks. Luma remained calm in his arms, as though she sensed that Nico would protect her no matter what. Occasionally, her small hands brushed against his jacket or backpack, exploring the textures with delicate curiosity. When they finally reached the settlement, Nico felt a mix of relief and nervousness. The people here were not like him. They were practical, cautious, and often afraid of anything different. Nico knew that bringing Luma here would raise questions, perhaps even anger. But he also knew that kindness sometimes required courage. As they entered the settlement, heads turned. Settlers stared, whispering among themselves. "Who's that? Where did he find her? Is she dangerous?" Nico held Luma a little closer, shielding her from the curious and cautious gazes. He took her to his small home, a modest dwelling, filled with gadgets and tools he had collected over the years. It was cozy, warm, and safe, a stark contrast to the harsh outside world. Gently, he placed Luma on a soft mat he had prepared. "Here, this is your space," he said softly. You can stay here as long as you want. No one will hurt you here. Luma sat quietly for a while, touching the mat, feeling its texture. She made a small sound, almost like a sigh, and leaned slightly against Nico. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. She trusted him. Nico watched her, fascinated. You're going to be okay, he said. I'll help you see the world in your own way. Over the next few hours, he brought her food and water, showing her simple routines. Luma learned quickly how to move within the small space without hitting anything. Nico noticed that when she touched objects, faint lights seemed to shimmer along her hands. He had no idea what it meant yet, but he felt a thrill of curiosity. As night fell, the settlement quieted down. Nico and Luma sat together near a small window. The twin moons of the planet cast soft light over the land. Luma reached out and touched the window frame. Her fingers glowed faintly, reflecting the moonlight. Nico's heart skipped a beat. You're amazing, Luma, he whispered. I think the world just hasn't met someone like you yet. Luma leaned against him, and he realized that despite her blindness, she was already seeing more than most people ever would. Not with her eyes, but with her heart and her senses. That night, as Nico lay in his bed nearby, he thought about the challenges ahead. The settlement might not accept her. Life might not be easy. But he knew one thing for certain. He had found something extraordinary, and he would protect it at all costs. And somewhere deep inside, Luma glowed with a quiet light, a light that would one day shine brighter than anyone could imagine. The morning sunlight poured gently through the small windows of Nico's home. Luma was already awake, sitting quietly on the soft mat he had prepared for her. She reached out with her hands, touching the walls, the floor, and the edge of the mat, exploring her surroundings with delicate care. Every touch seemed to teach her something new about the world around her. Nico watched her from the doorway, smiling softly. Good morning, Luma, he said. Did you sleep well? Luma made a small sound, almost like a nod, and her fingers brushed over the corner of a chair. For her, learning about objects through touch was like reading a story written in textures. Nico had never seen anyone focus so completely, and he admired her patience. After breakfast, Nico decided it was time to introduce Luma to the outside world. He knew it would be difficult. The settlement had strict rules about strangers, and most settlers were cautious around aliens. He hoped, however, that with care and guidance, Luma could adjust. They stepped outside together, Nico holding her hand lightly. Luma's skin seemed to shimmer faintly in the sunlight, a soft silver glow that made her look almost magical. Settlers passing by stared, some whispering, some frowning. Be careful, one woman said softly. You shouldn't bring strange creatures here. Nico shook his head, his expression calm but firm. She's not a threat, she's just different, and she needs help. Luma held onto Nico's hand tightly, her small fingers curling around his. She could not see their faces, but she could sense the tension and the curiosity through their energy. Walking slowly through the settlement, Nico guided her past the markets, the workshops, and the small gardens. Luma reached out occasionally, touching walls, benches, and even the air itself, as if she could feel the invisible currents around her. Every movement made her glow faintly, and Nico couldn't help but smile at the small burst of light. Despite Nico's careful guidance, Luma stumbled several times. She bumped into a crate, her hands brushing against rough wood, and let out a small, startled sound. Nico was immediately by her side. It's okay, Luma. You're learning. Take your time. She took a deep breath and tried again. Slowly, carefully, she moved forward, relying on Nico's voice and the memory of the space around her. Each successful step made her glow a little brighter, and Nico began to see a small, confident smile on her lips. But not everyone in the settlement was as understanding. Some settlers whispered to each other, frowning as they watched Luma. Why did he bring her here? One man muttered, she doesn't belong. Nico ignored them. He had faced skepticism before, and he knew it would take time for people to accept someone as unusual as Luma. What mattered was that she was safe and learning to trust him. Back at home, Nico began teaching Luma simple routines. He showed her where her food and water were, how to navigate the small living space, and even how to rest safely. Luma was attentive and patient. Though she could not see, she quickly learned to recognize the sounds of the room, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the heater, and the soft whistling of the wind outside. Luma's glowing became more noticeable as she adjusted. Whenever she felt calm or happy, a soft light shimmered across her skin. Nico realized that this glow was not just beautiful, it might also be a way for her to communicate or sense the world. Despite progress, there were still challenges. Luma was often frustrated when she stumbled or when she could not understand something. She would sit quietly, letting out small sighs of confusion. Nico would kneel beside her, gently guiding her hands to objects and explaining patiently. "You're learning so much, Luma," he said one afternoon. "Even if it's hard, you're doing amazing." She reached out and touched his hand. Small gesture of trust and connection. Nico smiled, feeling proud of her determination. The settlement itself remained cautious. Some children tried to approach her, curious about her glow, but Luma often recoiled, unsure of what to expect. Nico stayed close, showing her how to respond gently without fear. "See," he said one day, as a young boy reached out, "she's not dangerous. She's just learning. We can all be kind to her." Slowly, some settlers began to watch from a distance with interest rather than suspicion. They saw how Luma could sense vibrations in the ground and changes in the air, even without sight. Though they did not fully understand it, they could not deny her unique abilities. One evening, Nico decided to try something new. He brought out small objects with different textures: smooth stones, rough wood, soft fabric, and encouraged Luma to explore them. As her hands touched each item, her glow shifted, changing from a gentle silver to soft hues of blue and gold. "Look at that, Luma," Nico said softly. "You're amazing. You can feel so much more than most people can see." Luma's small fingers moved over each object carefully. She let out a sound of delight when she discovered new textures. Nico realized that her senses were growing sharper every day. She might not see the world with her eyes, but she was learning to sense it in ways no one else could. That night, Nico sat beside Luma as she rested on her mat. The soft glow from her skin filled the small room with a warm light. "You've come a long way today," he said quietly. "Tomorrow will be another day to explore, and I'll be with you every step of the way." Luma reached out and touched his arm gently, a gesture of trust and comfort. Nico smiled, knowing that even though the world outside might not fully accept her yet, she had someone who believed in her completely. And in the quiet of the night, as the settlement slept and the twin moons shone faintly above, Luma's glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat of hope. She was learning, growing, and slowly becoming more than anyone could have imagined. The morning sun rose slowly over the colony settlement, casting a soft orange glow over Nico's home. Luma sat on her mat, her small hands tracing the edges of her little space. Her glow shimmered faintly, reflecting the light from the window. Nico watched her quietly. He had been thinking for days about how he could help her see the world in a way she never had before. He had an idea, a gift. It wasn't just a present. It was something that might allow Luma to sense more than she ever could with her hands. Alone, Nico went to his workbench and opened a small box filled with tools and devices he had collected over his travels. Among them was a pendant, no larger than a coin, with a small glowing crystal inside. "This," Nico said, picking it up carefully, "is special. It can help you feel the world around you in a new way." Luma tilted her head, curious. She could not see the pendant, but she could sense Nico's excitement. She reached out with her small hands, and Nico placed the pendant gently in her palm. The crystal pulsed softly, warm to the touch. "Touch it carefully," he instructed. "It will help you sense things, objects, people, maybe even energy." Luma's fingers closed around the pendant. Almost immediately, a soft light began to glow from her body, brighter and warmer than ever before. The glow flowed along her arms, then across her shoulders, and finally settled into a gentle shimmer all over her skin. Nico's eyes widened. He had not expected the effect to be so immediate. "It's working," Nico whispered. "You're glowing." Luma turned her small head, her hands moving over the room instinctively. Though she could not see, she began to feel the presence of nearby objects: the mat beneath her, the walls around her, the small table in the corner. The pendant seemed to amplify her natural abilities, allowing her to sense the world more clearly than she ever had. "Can you feel it?" Nico asked. Luma made a small sound of wonder. Her glow shifted in colors, soft blues and gentle golds, reflecting her emotions. She reached out her hand and touched a cup on the table. A faint pulse of light moved from the cup to her, and she tilted her head as if listening to the vibrations. Nico could see her understanding grow with each movement. "You're amazing, Luma," he said softly. "This gift, it's just the beginning. It will help you explore, and maybe even help others too." For the next few hours, Nico guided her through simple exercises. He placed objects around the room and asked Luma to find them using her new senses. At first, she moved slowly, unsure of how to interpret the signals, but with patience, she began to navigate with surprising ease. The pendant not only enhanced her touch and perception of nearby objects, but it also seemed to allow her to sense people. When Nico stepped behind her, she turned toward him instinctively, her small hands reaching out, and a soft glow lit up her face. It was as if she could feel his presence through the energy in the room. "This is incredible," Nico said, unable to hide his excitement. "You can sense things most people can't even imagine." Luma's glow pulsed brighter, and for the first time, she let out a small, happy sound. She had always felt different, rejected, and alone. Now, with Nico's gift, she could experience the world in a new way, and it felt wonderful. As the days passed, Luma's abilities grew stronger. She learned to sense the presence of animals, detect the vibrations of footsteps, and even anticipate changes in the wind outside. Every time she mastered something new, her glow shifted in color and intensity, a visible reflection of her excitement and learning. Nico noticed something else, too. The pendant seemed to connect Luma to the settlement in subtle ways. She could sense when someone was approaching, even before they spoke. She could detect their mood through tiny changes in energy, and this allowed her to respond gently and calmly, even to people who were wary or cautious around her. One afternoon, Nico decided it was time to introduce her to a small group of settlers. They were friends he trusted, people who had been skeptical at first but were curious about Luma. He guided her carefully to the center of the settlement. The villagers stopped and stared as she approached, her soft glow illuminating the space. Around her, everyone, Nico said, his voice calm and steady. "This is Luma. She is different, yes, but she is also remarkable. She can sense things we cannot, and she is kind and gentle." Some settlers whispered among themselves, clearly unsure what to make of her. But as Luma extended her hands and the glow from the pendant pulsed softly, they felt something strange, a sense of calm and curiosity. One by one, they reached out their hands, and Luma reacted, sensing them and adjusting her glow accordingly. "It's beautiful," one woman murmured. "She can feel us." "Yes," Nico said. "She can sense people and objects in ways we cannot, and she's learning every day." Luma's small hand reached out to Nico, and he held it tightly. He could see the joy in her glow, the happiness that came from being accepted, even if just a little. She had faced rejection all her life, and now, with this gift, she could shine literally and figuratively. That evening, back at home, Nico and Luma sat together. He watched her hands move over the pendant, feeling its energy. She was quiet, but focused, learning how to control her glow and sense the world around her with precision. "You're going to do amazing things, Luma," he said softly. "I can feel it." She reached out and touched his arm, and he felt a warmth that went beyond the light from her body. It was a connection, a bond formed through trust and care. Nico realized that this small alien girl, rejected by so many, had already changed him. He had given her a gift, but in return, she had given him hope, wonder, and a sense of purpose he had never felt before. As night fell, the settlement grew quiet, and the twin moons shone over the rugged land. Luma's glow pulsed softly in rhythm with her small breaths. Nico watched her, feeling proud, protective, and amazed all at once. He knew there would be challenges ahead. Some settlers might still fear or reject her, and the world outside could be dangerous. But tonight, he allowed himself to be hopeful. With the pendant, Luma had begun to discover her own strength. With patience and care, she would learn to navigate the world, to shine despite fear and rejection, and to reveal her true potential. And somewhere deep inside, Nico knew that Luma's gift, her glow, her perception, her extraordinary abilities would change more than just her life. It might change the lives of everyone around her. For now, though, they simply sat together, human and alien, teacher and student, protector and protected, under the quiet light of the twin moons. And as Luma's glow shimmered softly, the first whispers of something extraordinary began to take shape. The sun rose slowly over the settlement, casting long shadows across the dusty streets. Luma sat on her mat inside Nico's home, her small fingers tracing the edge of her pendant. The glow from the crystal pulsed softly, as if keeping pace with her heartbeat. Nico watched her closely, feeling a mix of pride and curiosity. She was learning so quickly, and yet every day brought new challenges. Today, Nico had a plan. It was time for Luma to explore the settlement more freely, to practice interacting with people she could sense but not see. He held her small hand in his and guided her toward the main square. The streets were quiet in the early morning, the settlers beginning their routines. Remember, Nico said gently, you can sense them. Just be calm, and they will sense your kindness. Luma's fingers tightened around his hand. She had grown more confident with the pendant, but the outside world was still unfamiliar. As they walked, her glow shifted from soft silver to faint gold, reflecting her curiosity and caution. The first person to notice them was a young girl carrying a basket of fruit. She stopped abruptly, staring at the softly glowing figure of Luma. Who is that?" she whispered to her mother. The mother frowned, uncertainty clear in her tone. "I don't know. Be careful." Nico stopped and knelt beside Luma. "It's okay," he whispered. "They are just curious. You don't need to be afraid." Luma reached out with her small hand, sensing the vibrations from the people nearby. She could feel their hesitation, their curiosity, and their fear. Slowly, she extended her glow toward them, a soft, welcoming light. The young girl took a hesitant step closer. Sensing the calm energy emanating from Luma, she reached out her small hand, and for the first time, Luma responded instinctively, brushing her fingers gently against the girl's. A faint pulse of light traveled from Luma to the child, and the girl's eyes widened in wonder. "Wow," she whispered. She feels happy." The mother watched, her skepticism fading slightly. "She's different," she said softly. "But she doesn't seem dangerous." Nico smiled. "She's more than just different. She has a gift, and she's learning to share it." Word spread quickly through the settlement. People who had been wary of Luma began to watch her with quiet fascination. They saw how she could sense objects, how she could respond to people without seeing them, and how her glow shifted with her emotions. Even those who had been skeptical began to approach slowly, some out of curiosity, others out of a growing sense of respect. By mid-morning, a small group had gathered in the square. Nico guided Luma to the center, encouraging her to reach out and sense the people around her. She did so carefully, her glow pulsing with gentle waves of light. The settlers felt her energy, her calm and welcoming presence, and many of them began to smile. One of the older settlers, a man named Taro, stepped forward cautiously. He had been one of the most vocal about keeping strangers and aliens away from the settlement. But as he approached Luma, he felt a strange warmth from her glow. A sense of peace he had not expected. Can she really feel people?" Taro asked, his voice low and uncertain. "Yes," Nico said. "She can sense you, your emotions, and even your intentions. She's learning to communicate without words." Taro nodded slowly. "Incredible. I never thought I'd see something like this. As the day went on, Luma began to interact more confidently. She sensed people moving nearby, guiding herself with her glowing energy. Children reached out to touch her hands, and she responded with gentle pulses of light. Adults observed from a distance, their skepticism gradually replaced by curiosity and admiration. Nico stayed close, ready to protect her if needed, but he also noticed something remarkable. Luma was not only learning to sense the people around her, she was forming connections. The glow from her pendant in her body allowed others to feel her emotions, her kindness, and her calm, creating a bond that words could not describe. By afternoon, Luma had explored nearly the entire main square. With Nico's guidance, she moved confidently between market stalls, sensing the presence of fruits, tools, and other objects. Each time she successfully navigated a new area, her glow shifted, a soft wave of gold and blue that reflected her growing confidence. Nico knelt beside her as they watched the settlers. "Do you see that, Luma?" he said softly. "They're starting to accept you. They're starting to understand you." Luma's fingers brushed against his arm, a small gesture of gratitude and trust. She could feel his pride, and her glow brightened in response. Nico realized that she was not just learning about the world, she was learning about trust, connection, and friendship. That evening, Nico invited a few settlers into his home to meet Luma more closely. They were hesitant at first, but as they reached out and felt the gentle warmth of her glow, their fear melted away. Children giggled as they touched her hands, feeling the pulses of energy. Adults observed in quiet amazement, many of them realizing that Luma's abilities were not just strange, they were beautiful, powerful, and even comforting. One of the settlers, a woman named Mira, knelt beside Luma. "You're incredible," she said softly. "I've never met anyone like you." Luma responded with a soft glow, a gentle wave of silver and blue. Though she could not speak, her energy conveyed gratitude and joy. Nico smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had known Luma was special, but seeing the settlement begin to accept her filled him with hope. As night fell, Nico and Luma sat together near the window. The twin moons cast pale light over the settlement, reflecting off Luma's glowing skin. She leaned slightly against Nico, her small fingers brushing the pendant he had given her. "You've done so well today," he said softly. "You've started to show people who you are, and they're beginning to see it." Luma made a small, happy sound, her glow shifting to a gentle golden hue. Nico realized that she was not just learning about the world, she was teaching the world to see differently. Her gift, her glow, and her kindness were creating bonds that no one could ignore. For the first time, the settlement felt a little warmer, a little more open. People were beginning to understand that being different was not something to fear, but something to appreciate. And in the center of it all was Luma, a small alien girl who had been rejected by so many, now forming connections that were stronger than words. Nico looked at her and whispered, "Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but I know you'll be ready. Together, we can face anything." Luma reached out, touching his arm, and he felt a warmth that went beyond the glow from her body. It was trust, connection, and the quiet power of someone learning to belong. And as the night deepened, Luma's glow pulsed softly, reflecting the bond she had formed not just with Nico, but with a world that was beginning to accept her. The settlement had grown quieter over the past few days. People were beginning to accept Luma, curious about her abilities, and even the children laughed as they explored her gentle glow. Nico watched her carefully, proud of her progress, but he also knew that the world outside their walls could be unpredictable. On a warm afternoon, the peaceful atmosphere suddenly changed. From the rocky hills surrounding the settlement came a low, rumbling sound. Nico's ears pricked up. It was not a normal wind or the sound of distant wildlife. Something was coming. He looked at Luma, who sat quietly nearby, her glow pulsing softly. "Stay close to me," he whispered. "We don't know what's out there yet." The rumbling grew louder. Shadows moved across the settlement walls. Nico's heart raced as he recognized the shapes wild creatures from the hills. Known for their strength and unpredictability, they had come closer than ever before. The settlers began to notice too, panic rising in their voices. Children were pulled inside homes, and adults hurried to secure gates and barricades. The creatures were fast, larger than any human, with sharp claws and glowing eyes. They moved with a strange intelligence, circling the settlement and testing its defenses. Nico quickly guided Luma to the center of the main square. "Luma, I need you to use your gift," he said softly but firmly. "You can sense them before they reach us. You can help us stay safe." Luma's small fingers brushed the pendant around her neck. Her glow intensified immediately, spreading across her body in waves of silver and gold. She raised her hand slightly, as if reaching into the air itself. Nico could feel the energy radiating from her. The creatures were now close enough that their growls could be heard. Many settlers froze in fear, unsure of what to do. Nico felt a mix of worry and hope. Luma's glow had already proven remarkable, but could it really guide them through danger? She tilted her head slightly, sensing the vibrations of the creatures' movements. Nico saw her small body pulse with light and rhythm with each step of the creatures. Her glow seemed to form a map of the threat, showing Nico where the creatures were and which directions were safe. "Move this way," Nico called to the settlers, pointing toward the side streets. "Follow the light. Luma can guide us." With careful steps, the people began to follow, guided by the gentle waves of her glow. Children clung to their parents' hands, but Luma's presence calmed them, the rhythm of her light reassuring even the youngest. The creatures lunged at a barricade near the settlement entrance. Luma sensed the vibrations of their attack before it happened and pulsed a bright flash of light in their direction. The creatures paused, confused by the sudden energy. Nico realized she was not just sensing, they were reacting to her presence. "Good job, Luma," Nico whispered. "Keep going. You're doing amazing." Luma moved carefully through the square, guiding the settlers away from danger. Her glow expanded, creating a soft barrier that seemed to keep the creatures at bay. They circled and prowled, but none dared to approach the areas where her energy was strongest. Some settlers began to follow her lead, gaining courage as they saw the creatures hesitate. Nico felt a swell of pride. Luma was small and fragile, but her abilities were protecting everyone around her. One of the creatures broke through a weak section of the outer gate. Nico moved quickly to block it, but Luma pulsed a strong flash of gold and silver light, startling the creature. It froze, then retreated, as if sensing a force greater than its strength. "See," Nico said to the settlers, "she's not just special, she's powerful." The battle lasted for nearly an hour. The creatures tested the settlement's defenses, but Luma's presence guided every move. She led settlers to safety, indicated weak points and barricades, and pulsed energy in response to every threat. The glowing light from her body grew brighter, with each pulse showing her determination and bravery. Finally, the last of the creatures retreated into the hills. Nico and Luma stood in the center of the settlement, surrounded by exhausted but grateful settlers. Her glow faded slightly as she let out a soft sigh, the energy slowly settling back into a gentle shimmer. "Luma," Nico said, kneeling beside her, "you saved them. You saved everyone." She reached out and touched his arm. Her glow warm and steady. Nico smiled, knowing that even without sight, she had seen more than anyone else during the attack. She had sensed danger, guided people, and protected the settlement with a bravery that no one could ignore. The settlers gathered around, many of them still in awe. "We were wrong to doubt you," one man said quietly. You saved us." "Yes," another added. "We couldn't have done it without her." Nico looked at Luma, proud beyond words. "See what I told you? You're remarkable." People are starting to understand that being different can be a strength. That evening, the settlement slowly returned to normal. Fires were lit, gates repaired, and people shared stories of how the glowing girl had guided them through the danger. Children tried to mimic her glow with small lanterns, giggling as they moved through the streets. Adults whispered to each other, finally seeing that Luma was not a threat, but a gift. Back at Nico's home, Luma sat quietly on her mat. The pendant around her neck glowed softly, and she traced its surface with her small fingers. Nico knelt beside her. "You were amazing today," he said gently. "You kept everyone safe, even when things were scary. I'm so proud of you." She reached out and touched his hand, her glow pulsing faintly, a small expression of pride and trust. Nico realized that she had grown stronger, braver, and more confident in just a few days. She was no longer just the blind alien girl who had been abandoned. She was a protector, a guide, and a symbol of hope. That night, as the twin moons rose over the settlement, Nico and Luma sat together by the window. Outside, the world seemed calmer, safer, and somehow brighter. Luma's glow shimmered softly, reflecting the courage she had shown and the bond she had formed with the humans around her. Nico whispered, "Tomorrow will be another day, and who knows what challenges will come. But whatever happens, we'll face it together." Luma rested her small head against him, the pendant glowing gently. She had faced danger, protected others, and discovered that her unique abilities were more important than she had ever imagined. And somewhere deep inside, Nico knew that this was only the beginning. Luma's light, her courage, and her gift would not just protect the settlement, they would inspire it, change it, and perhaps, one day, change the entire world. The morning sun bathed the settlement in a warm, golden light. After the recent attack from the wild creatures, life in the colony had slowly returned to normal. But something had changed. The settlers were no longer afraid of Luma. In fact, many of them were curious and even eager to learn more about the small alien girl who had protected them all. Nico watched Luma as she sat on her mat, the pendant around her neck glowing softly. Her hands traced its surface, moving with the ease and confidence she had gained over the past days. Nico felt a swell of pride. She had grown stronger, braver, and more confident than he had ever imagined. "Today," Nico said softly, "we're going to show them who you really are." Luma tilted her head, her glow shifting to a warm silver as she sensed Nico's excitement. Together, they stepped out into the settlement square. Settlers were already beginning their morning routines, and as they saw Luma, their whispers were filled with curiosity rather than fear. One of the children ran up to her, eyes wide. "Luma, can you show me how you glow?" Luma extended her hands, and her body pulsed with soft light, silver and gold intertwining. The child gasped in delight, reaching out to touch her glowing hands. Luma responded gently, sending small waves of warmth that made the child giggle. The adults, observing the interaction, began to step closer. They had heard the stories of how Luma had guided them during the recent attack. Now, seeing her calm presence and gentle glow, they began to understand her gift. Taro, the older settler who had been skeptical at first, approached cautiously. He knelt slightly to meet Luma at her level. "I see now," he said quietly. "You are more than I imagined. You are remarkable." Luma's glow shifted to a soft blue as she sensed his sincerity. She reached out a small hand, and Taro placed his hand lightly against hers. For the first time, he felt her trust, her kindness, and her strength. Word of Luma's abilities spread quickly throughout the settlement. People began seeking her out, not with fear, but with curiosity and respect. Some came to ask her to sense lost items, while others simply wanted to experience the warmth and calm of her presence. Even the children began to play near her, learning from her movements and the gentle rhythm of her glow. Luma, who had once been rejected and alone, was now teaching others in her own quiet way. Her gift had become a bridge, connecting humans and aliens, fear and understanding. Nico stayed nearby, guiding her gently but allowing her to shine on her own. He noticed something remarkable. The more she interacted with the settlers, the stronger her glow became. It was as if their trust and acceptance fed her energy, giving her confidence and joy. One afternoon, a small group of settlers brought a wounded animal they had found near the settlement. They were unsure what to do, but they knew Luma could help. Nico guided her to the animal. She extended her glowing hands, feeling the creature's energy, sensing its pain and fear. Slowly, carefully, Luma pulsed her glow, sending waves of calm energy into the small animal. It quivered at first, then relaxed, sensing the warmth and safety she provided. The settlers watched in awe. She healed it. One woman whispered, She really healed it. Nico smiled. Not in the way we think of healing. He said softly, She can sense, guide, and comfort. That's her strength. Over the next few days, the settlement began to embrace Luma as one of their own. People who had once whispered warnings now greeted her with smiles. Children followed her around, learning from her, and adults observed with admiration. Luma's glow became a symbol of hope, safety, and the extraordinary power of kindness. One evening, Nico and Luma sat together on a hill overlooking the settlement. The twin moons rose slowly, casting a pale light over the buildings and streets. Luma's glow shimmered softly in the moonlight, silver and gold intertwining in a gentle rhythm. You see that, Luma? Nico said, his voice calm. All of this, they are beginning to accept you. They see your gift, your heart, and your strength. You've changed their world. Luma reached out a small hand and touched his arm. Her glow pulsed gently, a quiet expression of gratitude and trust. Nico smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had not only found a place in the settlement, but she had also inspired a community to see differently, to value differences, and to embrace kindness. The next morning, the settlement held a small gathering in the square. It was informal, but it was clear that something important was happening. Settlers, young and old, came together to celebrate Luma's bravery and her gift. Nico stood beside her, proud but giving her the space to shine. Luma extended her glowing hands, and the people around her responded with smiles, laughter, and quiet admiration. Even those who had been doubtful or fearful before now approached her, touched by the warmth and energy she radiated. This is remarkable, Mira, one of the settlers said softly. I never thought I'd see anything like this. She's amazing. Yes, Nico said. And this is only the beginning. Luma is teaching us all something important about trust, kindness, and the power of believing in others. Luma's glow pulsed softly as she sensed the energy of the people around her. She had once been rejected, abandoned, and alone. Now, she was a part of something greater, a community that had learned to accept her, to respect her, and to celebrate her uniqueness. As the gathering ended and the settlers returned to their homes, Nico and Luma sat quietly on the hill. The moonlight reflected off her glowing skin, casting gentle patterns on the ground. You've done so much, Luma, Nico said softly. You've protected them, guided them, and now you've helped them accept what makes you special. I'm proud of you. Luma reached out and touched his hand. Her glow pulsed gently, a quiet but powerful signal of trust, love, and connection. Nico realized that she had not only found acceptance, she had found a family, a community, and a place where she belonged. That night, as the settlement slept under the twin moons, Luma's glow shimmered softly, reflecting the peace and warmth she had helped create. Nico watched her, feeling a deep sense of hope. The world could be harsh, unpredictable, and full of fear, but kindness, trust, and courage could change everything. And in that quiet moment, Nico knew that Luma's light, her gift, and her spirit would continue to grow, guiding not just herself, but everyone around her toward a brighter, more compassionate future. The morning sun rose over the settlement, painting the skies with hues of gold and pink. Luma sat quietly on her mat, her glowing skin reflecting the soft light. The past days had changed everything. She was no longer the shy, abandoned alien who had once been rejected by everyone. She had become a symbol of courage, hope, and connection. Nico knelt beside her, smiling warmly. Today will be special, Luma, he said. It's time for everyone to see just how extraordinary you are. Luma tilted her head slightly, her glow pulsing with curiosity and anticipation. She had grown confident, learning to sense, guide, and connect with those around her. Now, the entire settlement would witness her abilities in a way that could never be ignored. They stepped out into the main square, where settlers had begun to gather. Children ran to greet her, their laughter echoing in the morning air. Adults watched quietly, still marveling at the glowing alien who had become a part of their community. Nico guided Luma to the center. "Everyone," he called, his voice calm and steady. "You know her now. You've seen her kindness, her courage, and her gift. Today, you will see just how much she can do." Luma lifted her small hands, and her glow expanded, filling the square with waves of soft silver and gold light. The effect was mesmerizing. The settlers felt warmth, calm, and hope radiating from her. It was more than light, it was energy that touched their hearts and inspired their spirits. The children gasped in delight, reaching out to feel her gentle pulses. Adults felt their worries and fears melt away, replaced with a quiet awe. Even those who had doubted her before now watched in wonder, unable to ignore the power she radiated. Nico guided her through a demonstration. First, she sensed the locations of hidden objects around the square: stones, tools, even small items the children had placed for the game. She reached out with her glowing hands, and the objects gently vibrated, almost as if acknowledging her presence. The settlers murmured in amazement. "She can feel everything," one whispered, "even what we can't see." Next, Luma focused on the people. Her glow shifted in colors: silver, gold, blue, each pulse reflecting her emotions and energy. Those near her felt calm, comforted, and connected. Small disputes among children ceased, and even the adults seemed more open, communicating quietly and kindly without realizing it. Nico smiled. "See, her gift is not just for sensing. It's for helping us understand each other, for creating peace." Then, something extraordinary happened. Luma's glow brightened beyond anything Nico had seen. Waves of light extended outward, reaching the edges of the settlement. People gasped as they felt her energy touching them, guiding their movements, calming their fears, and inspiring courage. Even the farthest corners of the square seemed alive with her gentle presence. One of the settlers, Mira, approached hesitantly. "Luma, can you help my father? He is sick, and we don't know how to help him." Luma's glow pulsed warmly, and she extended her hands. The energy she radiated flowed toward Mira, then guided the woman to the correct path to care for her father. Though she could not heal directly, Luma's gift provided clarity, comfort, and hope. The settlement realized that her glow was more than light, it was guidance, understanding, and a way to connect beyond words. Nico stood behind her, his heart swelling with pride. "You see, Luma, you've changed them, you've changed the settlement, and you've changed me too." Luma responded with a gentle pulse of her glow, the rhythm soft and steady. She had learned trust, patience, and the power of her gift. She had discovered that even without sight, she could illuminate the world in ways no one else could. As the sun climbed higher, more settlers joined the gathering, drawn by the stories of her courage and light. Even Taro, once skeptical, stood at the edge of the square, nodding in quiet respect. "She is remarkable," he said softly, "not just for what she can do, but for who she is." Children began to play around her, laughing as her glow responded to their energy. Adults exchanged smiles and quiet conversations, realizing that the alien girl who had once been rejected was now a beacon of unity and hope. Luma moved carefully through the crowd, sensing, guiding, and connecting. Each pulse of her light strengthened the bond between her and the settlers. Nico followed closely, watching as she transformed fear and doubt into trust and admiration. By late afternoon, the entire settlement had gathered. The twin moons began to rise, casting soft light over the buildings and streets. Luma's glow shifted, reflecting the calm and warmth she had created. Nico realized that she had accomplished something extraordinary, not just protecting people from danger, but teaching them to see with their hearts. "Luma," he said softly, kneeling beside her, "look at them. You've given them hope. You've shown them kindness, courage, and the power of trust. You are more than anyone could have imagined." She reached out and touched his hand, her glow pulsing gently in response. Nico felt her gratitude, her trust, and her love. He realized that she had not only found acceptance, but had also created a lasting impact on everyone around her. As night fell, the settlement glowed softly under the twin moons. Luma's light shimmered in rhythm with the calm energy of the community she had helped build. Nico watched, feeling a sense of fulfillment and wonder. She had started as a blind, rejected alien girl, and now she was a symbol of hope, courage, and unity. The settlers would always remember this day, the day they saw the full power of her glow, the day they understood that kindness, courage, and acceptance could overcome fear and doubt. And Luma, resting quietly beside Nico, knew that she had found a place where she belonged. She had discovered that even in a world that once rejected her, her light could guide, protect, and inspire. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not with eyes, but with hearts. And as the twin moons shone above, Luma's glow pulsed gently, a soft silver and gold, reaching out to touch the hearts of everyone around her. She had become more than a gift. She had become a beacon of hope, courage, and unity.